Hey, Pavel here from Slavdom Studio, and today we're gonna learn how to play Full Fuel, a vehicular mayhem miniatures game. At the beginning of every turn in Full Fuel, we are doing something called speed test. We're checking every current speed value of every vehicle, and this is our turn order. So checking down here, and Zook is in 4, Golf 6, Beimma 8, Maluk 6. We have a tie between Golf and Maluk, so we're gonna roll off. Green die is Maluk, black die is Golf. Okay, we're re-rolling that. Whoa, re-rolling that as well. Yes, so Maluk will be first before Golf. So Beimma, the fastest one, goes first, Maluk second, Golf third, and Zook fourth. Now we're gonna start with Beimma. We're looking at two main things when it comes to the turn in Full Fuel: speed value and adrenaline gauge. For Beimma we have 8 speed points and 2 adrenaline dice. So what we can do with adrenaline: we can speed up or slow down, we can use an upgrade, for example using torpedo, it's 2 adrenaline points. We can also restart the vehicle when its speed is at 0, or change our adrenaline gauge up to have more dice next turn. Now with Beimma we have an interesting situation here, so we can just speed and crash straight into Zook. And as we can see, Beimma has battering ram upgrade, which will come in handy. So now what we can do for speed points: 1 speed point allow us to move 6 or 3 inches forwards, 3 inches backwards, or turn 90 degrees. Now we're gonna move here and here, so Beimma is gonna ram into Zook. Boom! So from 8 we have 6 speed points left. Now, since Beimma moved forwards at least once in a row, it will get a burn token. If it would turn 90 degrees more than once in a row, it would get a drift token. But we will talk about these tokens soon enough. Now we're gonna compare allocate the speed damage. So we have 6 points of speed left. So Beimma 6 points. We're gonna check in the speed damage table. So speed 6 is 3 damage, and we're also comparing the size. Now Beimma is smaller than Zook. Beimma has size 2 and Zook is size 3, so there is no additional damage. Of course, if we will ram the bigger vehicle into a smaller one, the smaller one will suffer even more. So we have 3 damage to allocate. We are rolling D100. That's 61. So Zook, that's unfortunate because Zook has a lot of body. It's the most bulky vehicle in the game. However, there's also damage that will be allocated into a Beimma because, you know, it's smashed into another vehicle. But Beimma has battering ram, and with battering ram we ignore that damage. Now Beimma stops, of course, because it was, because it's smashed into another vehicle, and we are pushing Zook 3 inches because the speed of the ramming vehicle was at least 4. So we have 3 inches, and it gets a drift token, and we need to perform a drive test for Zook. 4 plus, yes, and whether you failed or you succeed with your drive test, you always remove tokens after the drive test. Now, if the vehicle has 2 or more tokens, it will modify the drive test even further. But it only had 1, so there we have it. If the vehicle fails drive test, it will lose control and move 3 inches in a random direction. Fortunately for Zook, it passed its drive test, so we can move forward with this. Beimma still has 2 adrenaline points, so we can spend 1 to move the adrenaline gauge up, and we're spending the last adrenaline point to restart vehicle at the minimum speed, which is 8, and it will be moving regularly next turn. Okay, so we have Maluk. Now we see there's a situation here. So we're activating Maluk, and we're gonna use its speed points. Always have a lot of dice around when you're playing full fuel. We're gonna use this die to track its speed points, and we're gonna do a lot of interesting things. First of all, we're gonna move 3 inches. So 1, and we're gonna use 2 adrenaline points from Maluk to use goop gun. Goop gun leaves nasty goop on the table, and vehicles moving or activating on the goop, they will have to do some stuff because they are in the goop. So we're moving another 3 inches for another speed point, which brings us down to 4. Of course, Maluk gets a burn token, and we can spend another speed point to try to pick up Fool's Fuel can, which is an objective token that can be usable. We can use Fool's Fuel tokens to, for example, speed up. So it has this dual nature. It is a scoring item, but you can use it as well. So there's a kind of a push-pull mechanic. And then we make a drive test. Bam! Fool's Fuel token lands in the trunk of Maluk. Now, we don't want to get more burn tokens, so another speed point here brings us down to 2. Let's move 6 inches here, so another speed point and last speed point to turn. Now, that's Maluk's turn, and we are moving, of course, burn token moves as well. We are moving to Golf. Activating Golf. Golf has a torpedo, but to activate it, we need to be in line with our target. So Golf has 6 speed points, so I'm gonna move here, 5, 4, 3, because we're gonna try to pick up this token. Yes, it lands in the trunk, and we can, I'm gonna use this die to track its remaining speed points, and we are activating with our 2 adrenaline points. We're gonna activate a torpedo. Now, there are 2 types of torpedoes in the game. One is a remote torpedo, which is a kind of like a homing missile that you can steer, but this one just boom moves into Maluk, dealing 2 damage, which we are allocating with D100. 91, that's a body. That's a really fortunate hit because Maluk has a small, frail body. If we get into the last hit point of the structure element, we are using the luck stat to roll, and we can save the structure element this way. But we are not using this at the moment. We still have 3 speed points, and I think we're gonna go and ram into Maluk. Yeah, there's not gonna be a lot of damage because the speed will be really minuscule, but it's always good to ram into small vehicles. So we're moving here. We have 2 speed points left, so the speed damage is 1. However, the size of Golf is 2 and Maluk is size 1, so we are adding 1 point of damage. So there's 2 damage points to allocate. 98, amazing, its body. So Maluk goes here and it's gonna roll for its luck. Now, Maluk is a fierce little guy. It can reroll its failed luck rolls, we'll see. 4 up, 6. So Maluk's body is saved. However, we still need to allocate the size damage, its own size damage to Golf. 2 damage points. It's 68. Body. So Golf, well, it was worth it anyway. Okay, so Golf stops. We're pushing Maluk. The speed was less than 4, so it's not 3 but 2 inches, and it's gonna be 2 inches here. Boom, and a drift token for our little boy. And we need to make a drive test for Maluk. Maluk, now it fails. It has 2 tokens, so it wasn't 4 plus but 5 plus, but it fails either way. So it's losing control. 3 inches in a random direction, 3 inches here. Boom. And Maluk stops. Now we have our last guy, and it's a big boy. Zook. We're using nitro with 2 adrenaline dice, and it ups our speed by half, so 6, and we're gonna smash into Beimma with our 6 speed, well 5 because we were using 1 point to move here. Now Zook is size 3, Beimma is size 2, so to the 2 points of damage from the speed, we'll be also adding 1 point of damage to Beimma because of the size difference. Now, Pusher, it's a special ability of Zook, which makes other vehicles even more susceptible to its power. So we're gonna push it even more, 2 inches more to be specific. Of course, here we are using the generic vehicles. There are different factions in Fused Fuel, and they have different versions of the vehicles. You see, they have different upgrades, and they have even different possibilities to interact with these tokens. Now, there's 2 speed damage, 1 size damage, so we are allocating 3 points of damage to the Beimma. Now, that's 50. So it's 3 points to steering system of Beimma. The Beimma, 1, 2, 3. And we're pushing not 3, but 5 inches. So we're moving here. Boom. Beimma gets a drift token and has to make a drive test. So we're doing a drive test. However, Beimma is a sticker. That's its special ability. We can reroll failed drive tests. Now we needed 5 plus because there are 2 tokens here, but we pass it with flying colors. 6 up and discarding the tokens. And also we need to allocate 3 size damage to the Zook because it rammed other vehicles. So Zook stops and we're allocating 3 points of damage. 38, it's chassis, so 1, 2, 3, getting a little dicey here, and that's the end of the turn for Zook. for the Zook. Now we're gonna go to the rush phase. In the rush phase, we're looking for drift or burn tokens near the vehicles. For every vehicle with the token, we need to make a drive test. Of course, there are no tokens near the vehicles, so nobody has to make a drive test. And that's a turn. You can slam vehicles into other vehicles, into terrain, into walls. So there is a lot of happening during the playthrough of Fool's Fuel. Also, you can configure your vehicles as much as you want. There are 4 possible upgrades for every vehicle, and we highly recommend to customize your vehicles to your playstyle. So there you have it. This is how you play Fool's Fuel, a vehicular mayhem miniatures game. Download the free rules from our GameFound page and support our crowdfunding campaign. Be fast, be furious,